Welcome to the flip side. Well, it's primary election week in Maryland, and at least for me, some of the results were a little bit surprising. Let's talk first about voter turnout, Ron. I haven't seen any official numbers. Have you seen anything in terms of voter turnout for the primaries?
I just saw in the state of Maryland it was just shy of 500,000 voters that turned out. I think like 448 to 450,000 in the state, which is it's not good, but it is what it is in a primary.
It's on par for primaries?
It's on par for an apathetic public that gets turned off by the political nonsense of today of both political parties.
So, Henry, in your mind, is there going to be a draw to the polls in November, or are we going to see what happened? I don't think the Democrats showed up as much as everyone would have liked in the 2016 election. Are we going to have that same issue on the Republican side this time?
I think a lot depends on the rhetoric that we have going on in society. Right now, there's just so much negativity, and it comes from both sides, okay? It's not strictly Democrats or it's not strictly Republicans. Both sides need to improve the game and start talking about real issues that impact people. This is a critical election in every state that has a gubernatorial election, because the governor is going to determine the next set of political districts.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because in the gubernatorial race, obviously on the Republican side, there wasn't much to talk about. On the Democratic side, were you as surprised as I was that Mano got really just trounced the way he did?
Well, you know, you're talking about the 6th Congressional
I'm sorry,
district.
you're right.
So, yes.
In the on the governor's side, Ben Jealous won. The next highest was
120,000 votes.
Baker, right?
Yeah, Sharon Baker,
Right,
Prince
I
George's
meant Baker,
County.
yes, by 125,000. That, again, that was my point, though. That was a pretty big distance between those two, right?
Absolutely, and it was an upset in the making as well. There's no way that Sharon Baker should have been beaten, but he had some bad problems in Prince George's County within the school system and some other issues, and it did him in.
But doesn't Ben Jealous also have a lot of baggage coming over with him?
Does he ever?
And, you know, Hogan's riding 75% approval rating. He seems kind of bulletproof when we go into the November. I mean, barring a major stumble.
There's a lot of time between now and November, guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of time, but there's a lot of time. So there's so much that can be done in that period of time.
But Annapolis isn't in session. That doesn't hurt during this time for him.
Right.
So, interestingly, I found it interesting, Larry Hogan and Boyd Rutherford got 201,941 votes as the sole candidate on the Republican side. Ben Jealous and Susan Turnbull got 218,849 votes, not to mention the 161,000 for Baker, the 45,000 for Scott, the 45,000 for Blake, and so on down the line.
So you had a lot of Democrats vote.
You had a lot of Democrats vote.
And maybe some Republicans went to the polls and said, you know, I'll support Hogan in the general election, but there's some things that he's done recently to sort of slide a little bit more to center or maybe a little left to center. I'm not going to offer my vote to him in the primary.
I saw that.
Somebody
said that
Yes.
today on
Who was
Facebook.
that?
Yes, they did.
All right, let's talk about U.S. Senate. So in our U.S. Senate on the Republican side, I believe it was Tony Campbell for the win. What do we know about Tony?
I don't know anything about Tony Campbell.
You know, what I see on Facebook, I've never met him in person. You know, he seems to have, you know, a lot of go-go juice with the local Republican groups. So I think he still has a major hurdle because Democrats across the state, and Ben Cardin's kind of a...
Was he a county executive anywhere? What was he?
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly, I don't...
It's one that never came up on a radar screen.
No, it never came up for me either, and I was, I looked down that list yesterday at the voting booth and was angry at myself for not knowing the names that I was seeing on the...
But, you know, if we do alphabetical, he was the first name alphabetical.
There you go.
Okay, which
maybe
probably
that
good for
was
10% of the vote.
There you go. On the Democratic side, Ben Cardin handily won the Democratic side. Here's the sticker for me. 542 votes in Washington County, 32,056 votes in the state of Maryland for, yes, you guessed it, convicted leaker Chelsea Manning. What does this say about our electorate? Henry?
Uninformed and probably not up. Maybe that's just where they're going. Apparently, Ben Cardin's not liberal enough for them and is not following the policies that some of the electorate is really looking for. They want to go further to the left. I find that hard to believe, but I think that might be kind of that voice. And he probably carries a little bit of carry with the gay pride to support him in that regard. So that voting segment probably came out and supported him.
And I certainly was not suggesting you shouldn't support him because of the gender identity, but the whole being convicted of leaking confidential material, that is another question in my book. Ron, 6th Congressional.
Wait a minute, I want to say something about that.
You voted for him?
Yeah, I voted for Cardin. Ben Cardin's a good friend of mine.
No, I meant you voted
No.
for. No, okay.
I still see it as a vote against Cardin. I see it as a vote that they threw away to Cardin that sent a message to Cardin that amount of people would vote for him.
What does that amount of people? What does that represent? The more left-wing version of the Democratic Party that may think that Cardin is too close to the center? Who is that?
It could be anybody to the extreme right or the extreme left that decided they're not going to vote for Ben Cardin regardless.
Well, if it's to the extreme right, I would guess they would not be voting for Ben Cardin. They'd be voting for the Republican Amy Hoeber.
Well, but Amy Hoeber is not the United States Senate. She's the sixth congressional district. So
it would be the Tony Campbell.
Yeah, it'd be Tony Campbell.
Why am I mixing up congressional candidates?
Well,
tonight?
Ben Jealous is another extremist. You had Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning. I never really did see what her political views were, but
I think they were left to Ben Cardin.
Yeah, way left of Ben Cardin. And I think Ben Cardin has represented the Jewish community across the state and across the country really well, with a lot of the votes that he's taken in the United States Senate. So I see him as returning to the Senate.
I think he's a shoo-in.
The votes, we'll talk a little bit later about the Democratic Central Committee.
Yeah.
And the shake-up there. So there's a lot of folks in the Democratic Party, I think, they want to go as far left as maybe some of the Republicans want to go right.
All right, so let's really talk about the 6th congressional district, since I've been screwing up the names all evening. Amy Hoeber won handily in the Republican side, 18,701 votes to Lisa Lloyd's 4876, which was her next closest competitor. Any surprise there?
No.
Any thoughts that you have that she might win in the general?
I wouldn't support her in the general because of her closeness to the folks in the Pentagon, and she's one of those type of folks that she comes with a lot of money from PACs and big money in the industry for new weaponry and new planes and that type of thing, and I'm not into that.
It may also be some people who are going to vote against David Trone might throw their vote over for Amy Hoeber.
You think she has a chance?
I think it's a slim chance. I mean, she has an advantage because she's not going against an incumbent who was politically polished, like John Delaney was. But, I spoke to a person today, said, when she shows up at a debate, she needs to stop the name calling. She needs to talk about the issues. She needs to have meat with her potatoes.
Well, you had a chance to sit down and talk to Trone a couple of times.
And I did. He's a very pleasant gentleman, face to face. I'm not going to go beyond that because I really don't know. I like a candidate who's actively involved in the community and not looking to go to Smithsboro and things along those lines. Know where you're representing.
Yeah.
So
on the Democratic side, David Trone won handily, as I mentioned inappropriately before, over Roger Mano, 22,855 to 5788. Now, Mano put a lot of money into this campaign.
Mano ran about 4th or 5th.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, Mano, I don't know how that happened. What was, in your view, Ron, what was the
We
problem
had all
with
the
his
union
message?
endorsement. He had all the labor endorsement, and labor's endorsements today don't carry the weight that they used to.
But
mean-
you know, on a sub side of that, Aruna Miller,
Yes.
she ran a tough campaign.
Did you ever hear her talk?
Yes.
Very intelligent.
Yes, she's very articulate.
Extremely articulate.
And, you know, I don't have to agree with her policy, but she did a really good
Yes.
job campaigning. And I think kudos to her for
Yeah.
that. I mean, she finished 5,000 votes behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty good. You know, Roger Mano, he should have done a whole lot better out there than what he posted.
I was surprised he didn't. I didn't think he would win, but I thought he would be a lot closer than
I
that.
saw him perform at the library one evening in a debate, and he was a total turnoff to a lot of the people at that debate that evening, the way he handled himself. I mean, sometimes you have to know how to run a campaign. I don't think he was as organized as well as what he originally thought he was. And organization in that 6th congressional district is a must. When you've got to go from Garrett County, from Oakland, the whole way down into Montgomery County, that's a big deal.
Let's talk about the Maryland House of Delegates. Mike McKay in 1C handily defeated Nicole Alt-Myers. Any surprises there?
Not really. You know, I think unfortunately for Nicole, she because of the last name Myers, she got mired into you know, I think that was some weight around her ankles to move forward. And you know, Mike McKay's represented the community well. He's respected generally throughout the area. He has strong pull in Allegheny County, which definitely helps him. So you know, Nicole had the same thing. She you know, really is from Allegheny County. But you know, Mike McKay, you know, he's out there. He's getting face time, and he's, you know, he tries to represent the people who elect him down in Annapolis as best as he can.
Ron?
I was surprised he beat her as handily as he did, because she
Almost double.
Yes, she campaigned door to door. She was personable. She met and talked to a lot of different people. He did not win his district when he ran in the last election. He lost his own, I mean, he lost up in
Right.
Cumberland and won here. Mike is a guy that, like you said, he's personable. He's in the dry cleaning business. I thought it would hurt him when he wanted that Register of Wills job in Cumberland and used the excuse that he wanted to go to the Register of Wills to be closer with his family.
And I agree with you. I think that probably hurt his potential performance. He might have done better, but remember, a lot of the electorate are not as informed as what we are when
Right.
we
Yeah.
And we have short memories, let's
Exactly.
face it. I personally was a little surprised. I didn't, frankly, expect Nicole to win. I find her very articulate. I find her very intelligent. I think she could win in the right circumstances. I think her campaign slogan of "I want the job" was nowheresville for me. It didn't impress me. I get it. You want the job. Say something that surprises me.
Well, she should have worked harder with that campaign slogan to reference what you were mentioning about Register of Wills. Okay, and then, well, he apparently didn't want the job because he wanted to come work.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah, the irony of that is not lost on me, but she didn't do anything with it, at
Right.
least not in my view.
She didn't use it for what how it originally was intended to
right,
be.
you know, newspaper clippings of the articles, it could have had more legs.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner, we are already over on time, but let's talk through this Commissioner stuff. First of all, Democratic side, nothing to report of any consequence. Donna Brightman, Elizabeth Paul, Ed Forrest, Brian Bell, and Harry Jones all made it through. They were unopposed at this point. So no surprises there. Donna Brightman was the top vote getter, at least at this point. I know there's some ballots to come in. Elizabeth Paul was second, which frankly I found pleasantly surprising. I like Elizabeth.
Well, only second, but 2 or 3 votes.
Well,
And if you really look at the
7 votes, but yes.
well,
was close.
Yeah, if you look at this in a different light, the top 5 county commissioners in this election was 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, vote-wise.
Now
If
here-
you look at vote totals, it's 3-2.
Again, pointing to our electorate and their knowledge level, Harry Jones got 3,337 votes, and of course Harry had exited the election. So
Well, but that wasn't the campaign that he exited the election. There was a
Well, he
letter
was-
to
he-
the
he-
editor, and that was it.
He was on the ballot. It said vote for 5. So
Yeah.
people voted for 5.
all right, on the Republican side, Terry Baker, top vote getter again. Jeff Klein, second top vote getter. Randall Wagner, Wayne Kiefer, and Court Meinelschmidt. Charles Burkett was the first loser at 2,179, about 400 and some, almost 500 away from Court Meinelschmidt. And then there were the also rans. Ron, what are your thoughts on that?
I predicted all 5 that won. I thought Kiefer would run a little bit stronger. Because,
Really?
Yeah, I did. I really did.
Well, as an incumbent, you would expect that he would have.
But
a
he
little bit
wasn't
more
an
boost.
incumbent in a sense
I-
because
he's
he
in
would never
office.
run an election before.
Yeah, he's in office though.
Yeah, and Henry's right. But I thought he would run a little bit stronger because of his advertising. I think he really did good advertising. I think he had strategic sign locations. He was always out talking to people, meeting with people, going to where people had issues. And I thought he'd do a little bit better. But Randy Wagner, I've known Randy Wagner for a long time. I worked with Randy's dad at Mac. And his dad was your dad would have known Randy's dad, which was George Wagner, who was the cameraman at the theater.
Okay.
He ran the cameras, the theater cameras for the movies.
Okay.
So,
But Randy had good community name recognition. Okay, from being in real estate for so long, his name's always in the newspaper on the weeklies.
Yeah.
So that helped him. Court was actually running, local TV spots. So I think that is probably where he got a little bit a bump there. I know he's had some local fundraisers and get people drawn in. It's the ones that we expected to get through really did get through. Some of the other candidates, I won't say
I
who I
really
voted
thought
for.
Jeff Klein would have pulled out into the lead in terms of the top vote getter. I really expected that.
I don't see that happening.
Okay. You're obviously more in tune with this than
Of course, I
am.
may be biased in that regard, but I don't see that happening.
All right, and that's the last we have to say.
no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're forgetting 2 key people here.
Lay it on
You're
me.
forgetting John Barr and Bill McKinley.
John Barr and Bill
John
McKinley
Barr and
were
Bill
not
McKinley,
in this election.
They weren't in the election, but going forward, they're
will
going to be.
Yes,
They all had enough votes?
Well, no, they
Or
didn't.
not
they
votes,
still
they had
gotta
enough
get 'em.
signatures?
They-
Okay.
Well,
don't have 'em
So my understanding is they probably do. They just haven't turned them in yet, or at least
Yeah. So
they haven't been certified yet.
as you go forward now, there's another fly in the
There's
ointment.
another sheriff in town, 2 of them. And both of them have held, one of them holds a position now, and one of them has held the position. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. You're absolutely right. And that, Ron, we'll give you the last word on that. Coming up next, civility in government. Stay with us. We're back in 3.